You guys have been reading the cover story for 30 years. Good job, right? What a cover-up. Airman commands that. He wasn't too new. He was new to the flight. He's easy to work. He's an airman, brand new. Here's your type statement on the form. Sign it. Well, can I read it? Sign it. He signed it. He's scared to death. The only thing they probably couldn't have happened is something with John. Maybe John, under sodium pentothal, couldn't have his memory changed, altered, or something. Thank God. We used that statement to find the actual language letter. If it wasn't for that, he was just an airman. Maybe that was it. Don't worry about it. They got the security supervisor. He's taken care of. They got the deputy base commander. He's taken care of. They got the shift commander. He's taken care of. You guys see what happened out here? The truth is here. We're telling it to you. As hard as it is, this is the truth. No lies. I'm not selling a book. I'm not making a movie. This is the truth.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to take this. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. I'm not going to steal too much time because I know you've got loads of questions for the guys. But I think I'm going to be sitting on this panel too, so maybe if there's anything for me, throw it my way. I'm literally going to maybe just make a few observations based on my 21 years working for the Ministry of Defence. 3 years of which, as many of you may know, was spent on the UFO project, which was something I did from 1991 through to 1994. One thing that I have not said before, except to the guys, I think, on a radio show, but I wanted to kind of say it to you both in person. I did not even join the Ministry of Defence until 1985. So I certainly wasn't there at the time of the incident, though subsequently I undertook what police would call a cold case review of this. And I'm going to say a couple of things about that in a minute. But even though I don't feel that I have done anything wrong here, I just sort of, as the nearest thing there is perhaps to an official spokesperson, I actually want to say sorry to you guys.
Oh, well done.
You know, sorry. And if you were let down, which you clearly were, by your own government, by the chain of command, then in so much as it means anything coming from me, and I'm not sure that it does, but I am very sorry for the fact that you were put through this, and I hope that today is going to be something that is cathartic for you and helps you, deal with this, because I know that I've met you several times, and I know it's a big part of your lives, and I really hope that this is helpful to you. One thing that I would say about the Ministry of Defence's position on this, and it's a soundbite that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, the standard Ministry of Defence line on the Rendlesham Forest incident is actually the same as it is for the UFO phenomenon as a whole. It's this no defence significance quote. Well, let me tell you, that is a kind of standard knee-jerk reaction that we trotted out every single time any member of the public or media representative asked us about UFOs. UFOs, no defence significance, because what else could we say? And you know what? Most times we were right. Because, of course, most times it did just turn out to be misidentifications of aircraft lights, weather balloons, etc. But on this occasion, absolutely take this to the bank. This event was of extreme defence significance. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a believer or a skeptic. It doesn't matter whether you think this was Russian or Martian. It doesn't matter if you think this was extraterrestrial, interdimensional, intertemporal. if you have an object over arguably two of the most sensitive bases in the entire NATO alliance, and if this thing does what these people and many, many others say that it did, firing light beams down at the ground, firing light beams at their position, firing light beams possibly into the weapons storage area itself, then you know it doesn't matter, like I say, whether you're a believer or a skeptic. It's a defense issue. It's a national security issue. It's a security breach. So don't listen to the no defense significance soundbite, and if I ever wrote to any of you saying that, I apologize. It was the party line. The cold case review. This was just me sitting down, going through the files in 1994, doing what police officers would do with an unsolved crime. And it's interesting, one of my subsequent postings in the MOD was to a security division where I worked alongside military cops. So I actually got to know a fair bit about the police mindset and the investigatory process. And it was very interesting. We always used to say that a UFO sighting was much like a crime. If you solved it in the first 24 hours, 48 tops, you know, fine. If you didn't, your chances of getting to the bottom of it became vanishingly small very, very quickly. So I did this cold case review, hoping that some new piece of information would come to light. But essentially what I found was a situation where both the British and the American government, whether by accident or design, were, I think, complicit in a cover-up, not necessarily with most of them of knowing what this was and hiding it, but almost not knowing what it was or what to do. It was very clear to me, for example, that the British were saying, well, clearly this is something that the Americans dealt with. They investigated at the time. Because they waited so long to report it, clearly they didn't think this was very important. They had matters well in hand. We also know that the Americans were saying pretty much the same thing. Well, it happened off base, and as General Baisley said, that makes, this was taken to the weekly meeting of 3rd Air Force, and the general almost rubbed his hands with glee and said, it's a British issue because it happened off base. So you have this situation where arguably both the British and the Americans had jurisdiction, but each thought or perhaps hoped that the other had primacy. Now, what this meant was that we had pretty much a situation where either and both parties to this could take a step back and say, well, you know what, we needn't get too worried about this. The other side have got it in hand. And the proof of this is perhaps one of the biggest failings of the entire investigation. Any investigator, any cop will tell you that there are a very small number of things that will fatally undermine any investigation. One is delay. We had that. Look at the date on Holt's memo. A second thing that will foul up an investigation is poor information sharing. The Ministry of Defence didn't get these witness statements and these sketches, but neither did the USAF get the Defence Intelligence Staff assessment of the radiation levels taken at the landing site. So both the USAF and the MOD had important information which we didn't share with the others. So delay and poor information sharing and the lack of putting one single individual in charge of an investigation. Instead, you had multiple investigations, multiple agencies, people coming on and off base that even those there weren't familiar with. This was a recipe for confusion. Maybe that confusion was deliberate, maybe it wasn't.